Hello to everybody. Let me first thank the organizers for giving me the opportunity to speak in this very important event. And now we go straight to the topic that was assigned to me. That is REM sleep and cyclic phenomena. First of all, I want to make sure that we are all in agreement on the fact that when we say cyclic, we also mean periodic. One function is mathematically the inverse function. So whenever I will use one term or the other, we are referring always to the same repetitive, quasi-regularly repetitive phenomenon. REM sleep itself, when it was discovered, was already indicated to be a phenomenon that occurs cyclically during sleep every 90 to 100 minutes, since the very beginning, since the very first discovery. But we will not speak about this type of periodicity. We will speak about much shorter periodicities that occur, paradoxically, during non-REM sleep. And then we will see how these change or persist during REM sleep. This will be, of course, very quick because the time available is not too long, and we cannot go into many details. And I will show you a very personal view of the phenomenon. Cyclic periodic phenomena during sleep, during especially REM sleep, were noticed since the very systematic studies by sleep polysomnography. And as an example, I show you two papers by the group of Professor Lugaresi in Bologna that already in the 60s and 70s indicated the presence of periodic phenomena such as the periodic leg movements during sleep, and the fact that they are embedded in a more general periodic occurrence of other phenomena such as sleep apnea and changes in EEG amplitude that accompany these movements and apnea, and also heart rate changes, as you can see here. And so we start with this phenomenon, that is the phenomenon of the cyclic alternating pattern. Basically, cyclic alternating pattern is are periods of non-REM sleep during which transient increased EEG amplitude occur on the normal EEG baseline. As you can see here, this occurs in a repetitive way. So you see high amplitude followed by low amplitude, high amplitude followed by low amplitude, and so on. The same sleep stage, such as sleep stage 2 in this case, and slower sleep, can be capped or non-capped when the same sleep stage shows stable EEG without these changes in amplitude. We called the subtypes, here's the transient high amplitude phenomena, phase A, the cap cycle, and the return to the baseline, we call phase B. Then phase A is subdivided into four, because it is easy to subclassify this way, but it is a continuum, evidently. But they are subclassified in A1, A2, and A3 based on their spectral content. It means that the A1 are prevalently composed by slow waves. The A3 are prevalently composed by fast EEG activities, and the A2 are composed by both slow and fast EEG activities in a similar quantity. This is based on the fact that experimentally we can also evoke these transient events, which are normally endogenous and self-paced by our brain, but they can be also evoked. If we start a very low intensity stimulation, such as a sound, we can evoke a burst of delta waves. By increasing the intensity of stimulation, we will observe the progressive increase in the intrusion of a fast activity until there is an almost complete substitution. This is what has indicated us that these phenomena, even if they are completely different from spectral content and from also the topographic localizations, slow waves are mostly anterior, fast activities are parietal, occipital. These phenomena are highly integrated between them and represent the same macro phenomenon of the response to a stimulus. So CAP can be endogenous, self-paced by the brain and evoked when important stimuli or even very small intensity stimuli are perceived. And I have to show you also this type of representation of CAP that is much more dynamic, and because CAP is a much more complex phenomenon than simply stating that something is anterior, something is posterior. As you can see during CAP, there is an intense crosstalk between different regions of the brain, and it is when sleep and wakefulness are fighting between them. If sleep wins, we get slow waves. If wakefulness wins, we get fast waves. So we get the so-called microarousals or arousals, which correspond roughly to the A3 component of the CAP, but they are indeed embedded in the definition of CAP. Now we pass to the subcortical cyclic components, periodic. So we have already introduced before the periodic limb movements during sleep. You can see here an example of a recording, and already you can see how they are synchronized with the CAP events in the EEG. We have a model, a very detailed model of this phenomenon, mathematical model of the distribution, the time distribution of this phenomenon. And we know that after these mathematical approaches have been done extensively in the past, we know that the periodicity of these leg movements is between 10 and 60 seconds, and especially between 20 and 40 seconds. The main peak is between 20 and 40 seconds. But this is different from the periodicity. It is not extremely different. It is a little different from the periodicity of another cortical phenomenon, that is sleep apnea. This periodicity of sleep apnea has been calculated, obstructive sleep apnea, between 35 and 45, as you can see here, seconds in different studies. So it is partially overlapping with the periodicity that we have seen before. What happens when both phenomena coexist? This slide allows me to introduce two concepts. One is that the periodicity of the central sleep apnea is usually longer than 45 seconds, so it is a bit different from the obstructive sleep apnea. And then second concept is that when leg movements, periodic leg movements are present, then they tend to synchronize with this periodic respiration. So their period tends to become similar to that of the respiration rate. or no respiration rate, the respiration cyclic changes. In this study, indeed, we demonstrated exactly this, that subjects who have both periodic leg movements and sleep apnea, when periodic leg movements occur together with sleep apnea, during sleep apnea period, they tend to get the same periodicity of sleep apnea. When they occur, these are the non-respiratory related leg movements by themselves, then the period is the typical period between 20 and 30 seconds. So the concept is that these phenomena are phenomena that oscillate by themselves, but then they are integrated in a complex system, in an interconnected system. The nervous system, the peripheral nervous system connects all these phenomena. And then they interact between them and they adapt that period, their period, to synchronize between them. What about heart rate variability? Heart rate variability follows this phenomenon. This is the periodogram of this is the spectral analysis of the heart rate variability, and this is the RR interval over 256 seconds of volume control during sleep. You can see the so-called respiratory arrhythmia, respiratory sinus arrhythmia, and which produces this peak in the so-called high frequency band that is known to be under the parasympathetic control. When we have periodic leg movements, you can see that they are accompanied, each periodic leg movement is accompanied by a rise in heart rate frequency, that means a decrease in period, and with the occurrence of a peak in the low frequency or very low frequency range. Same occurs when there are apnea, and you can see that also the peak shows clearly which is the main period in this phenomenon. We know also that there are differences due to the occurrence of CAP. When we have CAP, we have changes in heart rate similar to those seen in PLMS, but of course not as high as those and as evident. While during non-CAP, these oscillations are not so regular and they are very small. So again, putting together our things, our ideas is that these phenomena are phenomena that have their own way of oscillating, and when they are embedded in an interconnected system, they tend to synchronize and to drive each other. Of course, when there is a stronger driver, and in this case, the strongest driver is sleep apnea, the tendency is that everything gets the rhythm of sleep apnea. And in this short theoretical paper, this was a little bit indicated a long time ago anyway. And but the concept is also that these systems, when needed, they are also able to do and to oscillate differently if, again, needed, while still being synchronized with the other phenomena. So then you can see here in this picture that you can have increases in heart rate without the presence of the other phenomena, or the same is for CAP or for the EEG changes. To convince you of this, I want to show you a video that you can find on the internet. Look, in this video, it is we have a mechanism that oscillate similar periods. See what Now they are put in two camps. What happens is that at talking to each other and by talking to each other, they start to synchronize. It's a physics. When these oscillating phenomena can influence a little bit each other, they automatically synchronize between them. And this is what I think happens during REM sleep in humans, at least in humans. And you will see now that the operator will put down the, we can do it. Okay. And now the base is not moving anymore. They have lost their interconnection and they start to desynchronize, go back their bits, the start. I think this is some example. But we can also have a more detailed view. I cannot go into many details because of time, but when these things synchronize between them, as an example, here you have leg movements and the EEG. In this old example, we showed that very often, most often, changes in the EEG with the slow waves occur slightly before the leg movements. And together with this, also heart rate starts moving a little bit, changing a little bit. And then when the leg movement occurs, then you have the fast EEG part of this kappa-A3 subtype occurring as an evoked response to this phenomenon, to this motor phenomenon. And the ECG increases in frequency even. So this is the crosstalk I was talking about before. And if you do this in a more systematic way, you average a lot of movements, you can see that this is the PLM start. And you can see here that the delta band of DG starts moving even 5 seconds before, but at least 3 to 4 seconds before, followed by the other bands. The only band that peaks after and starts moving at the end is the beta band. And heart rate starts moving 3 to 4 seconds before and peaks when the movement is at its maximum. And this is in non-REM sleep. What happens when they are also associated to respiratory events? You can see here this nice study by John Winkelmann, a very old study, but very interesting. You can see this is what happens after the end of an apnea event. Heart rate increases, we all know this. When it is associated with the occurrence of a leg movement, there is an increase in this heart rate evoked response. This shows how the phenomena are interacting and reinforcing each other. And that synchronization that we have seen before means that they reinforce each other. So now shortly, what happens during REM sleep? Shortly, because it is a short study, especially for CAP. CAP does not occur during REM sleep. The brain is unable to synchronize, is unable to produce slow wave sleep, slow waves, sorry. And CAP does not occur during REM sleep. Only isolated arousal can occur during REM sleep, not organized in sequences, regular sequences, but they can occur as a response to the subcortical phenomenon, as we will see after. But please remind that CAP is not distributed evenly during sleep, but it occurs, especially the A1 slow components occur during the descending phase of the sleep cycle, and while the A2 and A3 in the ascending phase. Typically, the periods after the end of REM sleep are non-cap, as you can see. It is like the sleep stability and the difficulty to synchronize that, of course, during REM sleep persists into non-REM sleep for a certain period of time after the end of REM sleep itself. It is very interesting to see. I show always this program here, because here you have the phenomenon, the missing REM. Even if we have a missing REM, and believe me, there was no REM there, you can still see the non-cap period occurring where it should have been occurring. What happens with PLMS? First of all, if you look at the left side, we know that the periodicity, so the regular occurrence of these leg movements, is decreased during REM sleep. And if you look at RLS patients who are those who have a lot of leg movements, you see that this is the periodicity index. That is a measurement derived from the graphs that I showed you before. This periodicity decreases significantly in all groups considered here: controls, RBD, and RLS from this type. What about the changes accompanying? There are changes in heart rate, but very difficult to pick up changes in the EEG. I'm saying changes that are systematic and they can come out and be seen by averaging a certain number of events. Of course, we can have changes in EEG connected with the isolated arousals, but not with the periodic leg movements. What happens with sleep apnea? Sleep apnea, which I checked the studies in literature, there's not much. Sleep apnea can persist during REM sleep as well, even more than PLMS. There are subjects, we all know that they have REM prevalent sleep apnea, so sleep apnea is a phenomenon that is even favored by the atonia during the REM sleep. But the probability with which sleep apnea is accompanied by an arousal changes with sleep stages. It is minimum during M3, and during REM sleep it increases again, and it is similar to that in M2. So we have a different responsiveness. And this responsiveness is also connected with the severity of sleep apnea. As you can see that if you have an apnea, the probability to have an accompanying arousal is higher than if you have an hypopnea or a desaturation event only. And what about heart rate variability? Heart rate variability, again, follows the other phenomena. So heart rate variability is certainly an evoked activity that is strictly connected with the occurrence of the other phenomena, the motor phenomena in particular. And even sleep apnea is a motor phenomenon at the end. Also, remember, this was normal control in CAP during REM sleep, normal control in non-CAP, and normal control in REM sleep. You see, it occurs that during REM sleep, we have just irregular fluctuation, and these are very irregular. They can be low amplitude, higher amplitude, but there is no cyclic or periodic changes at all. I go to the very shortly to the conclusions. Cyclic periodic phenomena during REM sleep are predominantly subcortically generated events, such as sleep apnea, both obstructive and central, and PLMS, while endogenous cortical cyclic periodic activity, such as CAP, are almost exclusively seen during non-REM sleep, with the exception of repetitive arousals as an expression of an evoked cortical response to apnea events or PLMS, at least in some cases. I thank you very much for your kind attention. I hope this will generate some discussion, and I hope to see many of you in Rio next October for the World Sleep Congress. Thank you very much.